Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. You're joining me today at Portsmouth Golf Centre as I film my first ever versus battle on the channel, where I take two irons and compare them side by side to try and work out what are the differences and who might want to game each one of these irons. And today we're starting with a really interesting matchup. We're going to take the TaylorMade P770 versus the brand new TaylorMade P790 and just see how the two irons perform when they're put in my hands as a mid-handicap average swing speed player, and try and work out which one you might want to game depending on how you swing the golf club versus me and what handicap aspirations you've got. Let's get stuck in. Right, before I start hitting some shots, I just want to tell you a little bit about the similarities and the differences between these two irons. This isn't going to be a comprehensive overview of the technology. If you want to see that on the P790, I've got a full review which I'll put a link to up in the corner of the channel now. And if you want to see similar for the P770, let me know and I'll film a comprehensive review of that. The couple of things to call out is they are from the same family, and TaylorMade do talk about that a lot. They describe it as a sibling rivalry, the brother versus the sister. And as a result, the technology that's underneath both of these irons is very, very similar. Where there's a couple of differences is in the profile and the shape and the size of these irons. The P770 is a slightly smaller profile, so if you like a more compact iron head, you might prefer the P770, where there's a little bit more size and as a result a bit more forgiveness to the P790. In terms of the lofts, that is where there is a subtle difference between these two irons, particularly the 7 iron that we're going to be using today. With the 4 irons, the pitching wedge, there's about 1 degree to 1.5 degrees in it, but with the 7 irons in the set, the P770 is at 33 degrees, quite close to a traditional 7 iron loft, versus the P790 at 30.5, which is very much in the wheelhouse of all of the players' distance irons out on the market today. What am I expecting to happen in this test as a result? Well, because of that difference in loft, I'm expecting to see a little bit less spin with the P790 and a little bit more distance, and also a little bit more forgiveness from that blade, versus the P770, which I'm expecting to give me a lot of control and a lot of confidence in terms of my ability to hold a green, but I expect to see a bit more of a drop off if I don't catch it out the middle, and the actual distance I get out of it I also expect to be a little bit less. But let's see what happens when we start hitting some shots. There we go. There's the first one of these that I've timed lovely. That's gonna be as long as I can probably hit this. 148 yards through the air, so hit a good one. 79.5 mile an hour club head speed, ball speed at 107, much better hit. Carry 148, total 155.6, spinning at 5680, launch at 20.9, peak height 87 feet, and land angle at 47.3. This is exactly what I think you're going to get with these irons, is you are going to get that little bit more of a higher ball flight, you are going to get that little bit sort of more landing power with them, but you are going to sacrifice a bit of forgiveness with them, but you might get a bit of workability, which maybe as the handicap golfer, I might not need. Although if I hit them like that, I'd be happy. I think I've just got my alignment a little bit out so far because I've hit them all on top of each other almost, but they're all down to the right of where I've got the TrackMan set up. That one has jumped up there. 80.6 mile an hour club head speed, ball speed 109.3, carrying 152.7, total of 160.6, spinning at 5528, launch angle of 20.5, peak height nearly 90 feet. That one did go really high, and land angle at 47. That's a really good land angle for me with a 7 iron. Just going to try and adjust my alignment here, see if we can hit one down on the straight line. Just drawn that one ever so slightly. We're starting to get a feel for them now. 150.6 yards of carry at the time. Club head speed very similar, 79.1. Ball speed's very consistent then with the good hit of 109.3. Total 159, spinning at 5684. So that really is good spin for me with a 7 iron. I just don't hit a lot of spin generally, so that is good. Launching at 20.2, peak height of 84 feet, land angle 45.7. That's good. There we go, I've started one down the left. That's a beautiful golf shot. Really, really nice. As good again as I can hit these carrying at 148. Now again, if you've watched my channel for some time and you've seen me review these game improvement clubs, you'll be used to me hitting kind of 7 irons that go 160. That's because the loft of those 7 irons is about 27 degrees. At 33 degrees, this is definitely a much weaker 7 iron than some of those clubs that you've seen me test. So just bear that in mind. My club head speed is up from a bit of speed training compared to some of my other reviews, but my distance is down. But look at that spin though, 6,000 revs of spin with a 7 iron. I just don't ever get that off of a mat. I feel like I've hit that one well again, maybe a tad shorter, maybe 145-ish, 143.5. Again, club head speed really similar, 79.3. Ball speed dropped down a little bit there, and again, that's probably the forgiveness of these clubs that we'll hopefully get a bit more of when we move to the P790 in a second at 103.9. There is a bit of a drop off of club head speed there on that slight, fraction off of a good hit. And then as a result, the distance can drop as much as sort of 9 yards in my hands. Spin rate's still good though, keeping the ball in the air at 5361, launching at 21.4, peak height 82 feet, land angle 46. Like I really feel like the last few of these, I've hit them as well as I can hit an iron. That's the best one yet. It's almost down the pipe of the middle. That's got to be good. It's got to be good. 145.9, so again, kind of the spin rate, look at that though, 6279. The spin has jumped up. I honestly don't think I've ever seen me hit a 7 iron with as much spin as that. So these really are spinning nicely. But 107.2 of ball speed, 145.9 of carry, 152.3 in total, which shows that stopping power. It's really, really quick on the TrackMan. It's launching at 20.4, peak height of 86.6, and land angle of 47.8. Not caught that one as clean, so again it'd be really interesting to see what the drop off is there. So interestingly, it still carried 140 yards. The ball speed drop off is only 103.7, but the spin has still stayed up there at 6092 and it's kept the ball in the air. Still gone 70 feet in the air, which is great, and the land angle at 43 degrees is still good. It's not bad. It's probably what you would say is a good bad one. They do feel nice out in the middle. They do feel quite a solid construction. They do feel nice though. So that last one we've just hit, club head speed of 80.1 mile an hour, ball speed 109.3, the carry 154.1 is the longest we've had. Interestingly, it didn't feel any better than maybe the ones that have gone 10 yards shorter. Total of 163.2, spinning at 5214, launching at 19.8, peak height though 85.3 feet, land angle of 45.8. Right, one more good one to finish. Oh, that's a beautiful one to finish. I've hit a little baby draw just right of target, but it's going to be a lovely shot to finish on with the P770. Yeah, really nice one. So club head speed 79.2, ball speed 107.5, carry 148.6, total 156.7, spinning at 5640, launching at 20.5, peak height 85 feet, land angle 46.4. So first assessments with the P770, because of those slightly weaker lofts, you are getting a slightly reduced carry distance, but you are getting something that's a slightly more compact design. You are getting some incredibly strong spin rates for a 7 iron, and you are getting some really good launch angles, peak heights, land angles, and therefore a lot of stopping power when you're trying to land these irons into the green. What we now need to see with the P790 is there a sacrifice of distance and forgiveness? Let's move over to the P790. First one out of the gate seems to have launched miles into the air. Look at that. So it wasn't probably an absolute perfect strike, but at 152.1 yards, straight away we've seen it's already nearly matched the longest that I did with the P770. Club head speed's very similar, ball speed's very similar, 105.9, but that carry distance of 152.1 from that slightly stronger loft. What we've seen as a result is the spin rate straight away dropping down. We were in the 6,000s with the P770. Well, first shot we're in the 4,000s with the P790. We've seen that launch jump to 21.1. Peak height of 83.4 is definitely at the top end of what I remember seeing with the P770. And that land angle has dropped a fraction on a good hit to below that 45 magic number that we saw with the P770. And that one wasn't as clean a hit, but it still feels like it's flown a really, really nice distance actually. Look at that, yeah, so probably didn't catch that perfectly, Club head speed 79.2, ball speed 109.2, carrying at 154.1, as long as anything I got with the P770. Total though 165.1. Spin has got just above that 5,000. I think that is what I kind of remember getting with them using a Pro V1, around the 5,000 mark. 17.7 launch, so a lot lower launching that time, maybe because it wasn't as good a hit. The peak height only 75 feet and the land angle at 42.6. So straight away in two shots, we're starting to see the difference between these two golf clubs. More control, more stopping power, that P770, but a bit more distance and a bit more forgiveness from the P790. I've just drawn that, unfortunately, started it a little bit right of target and then just turned it over ever so slightly. But as a result, you've got the distance that comes from a slight pull draw down the right-hand side of 160.6 yards. And as a result, the ball speed of 111.6 is up too. You can see my club head speed is very, very similar, 78.8. Total at 170, spinning at 4,664, expect that off of a pull. Launching still at 21, and the peak height was still 93 feet off of a pull draw, and the land angle was still steep at 46.6. Like, that must have just been flushed, but unfortunately I've just closed the face down. That's a much better shot, just a little baby draw onto target. Beautiful. Look at that again though, look at that. Club head speed 79.2, ball speed 111, carry at 159.7, total 170, spinning at 4,665, launching at 20.3, peak height 88.9 feet, land angle at 45.7. Like, these two clubs are just differentiating themselves really, really easily here. Just hit that one absolutely sweet as a nut. Club head speed 78.9, ball speed 112.4, carry 165.3. That's just a really long 7-iron for me under any day of the week. Total of 173.9, but that spin again of 4,560. We're almost 2,000 revs less spin on good hit versus good hit, and that launch angle is a fraction lower at 19.9. But look at that peak height, 91.1 feet on an outstandingly good hit, and that land angle is at still 46. So we have still got some stopping power with this club despite the reduction in spin because of that ball flight. Oh my God, that's just a golf shot. What a golf shot that is. That is dead on the line. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. 159.2 yards. Club head speed 80 mile an hour. Ball speed 111.7. Carry 159.2. Total 168.2. Spinning at 5085. Launching at 19.9. Peak height of 91 and land angle at 46.8. What that does say to me here is we can get the stopping power is not as good as with the P770, or that's my feeling in the bay, but it's not a million miles away on those really good hits. Oh my God, I just need to stop hitting these and move on to my next video, but they're great fun to hit, really are. So that one went 79.1 mile an hour club head speed, ball speed of 108.5, carrying 153.7, total 163.9, spinning at 4977, launching at 19.4, peak height at 81 feet, and land angle at 44.6. Right, come on, let's have one more good one to finish just before the sun sets behind us. Just a fraction left of target, might be a couple of yards short of that one. Seemed to just ride up a little bit into the air. Yeah, 78.8 mile an hour club head speed, ball speed 106.7, carrying 151.8, total 161.7, spinning at 4761, launching at 21.1, peak height 85.9, land angle 45.9. Right, so you've seen me hit a batch of shots with both of these golf clubs, talking through the data shot by shot and giving you my feelings while I was in the bay of how these two clubs differentiated themselves. Now it's time to do an objective deep dive into the data. What you can see on screen is the table from TrackMan showing the full batch of shots that I hit with both of these clubs. There's a few more shots included here than what you saw in the first part of the video where I tried to collect a slightly bigger data set, but I just want to walk you through that now. Starting on the left-hand side, you can see that my club head speed with the P770 was slightly faster than it was in the batch of shots I hit with the P790 by 0.7 miles an hour. Interestingly though, the ball speed with the P790 at 109.7 was 2.7 mile an hour faster than it was with the P770, and as a result the smash factor of 1.39 is higher than it was with the P770 at 1.35. Now that could be down to a couple of reasons. Potentially my strike with the P790 could have been a little bit better, or it could have been that there was something different in the test. Well, the good thing I can confirm is that I used the same shaft. I just took it out of one head and put it in the other head for both these batches of shots. I used the same ball, the Titleist Pro V1, and we can also confirm from looking at the strike location quite now that there is nothing too substantial between the strike locations with both of these clubs. So what that says to me is that with all things being equal, actually what is happening here is the lower loft on the P790 does give us a slightly higher potential for increased ball speeds, and that's what we're seeing in this part of the test. One of the other claims we wanted to look at was the spin claims of these two golf clubs and how they differentiate themselves. In the bay we were seeing some really high spin with the P770, as high as 6,400 revs on a couple of the hits, whereas with the P790 I was struggling to get it over that sort of 5,000 mark on average, and that is shown in the average data here. You can see the average with the P770 at 5,777 versus 4,816 with the P790. So that's somewhere in the region of about 850, 900 revs of difference in spin between these two golf clubs, again reflecting the fact there is about 2.5 degrees of static loft difference between them as well, and that will contribute towards this. The really interesting thing, however, is despite that difference in static loft, is they both delivered a really similar ball flight. The launch angle was only 0.3 degrees in it between the two clubs at 20.4 versus 20.1. There was 2 feet of peak height difference, and actually the peak height on the P790 was higher than the P770, despite again it having that lower static loft, but the land angle was slightly steeper at 46.5 versus 45.5 with the P770. So the big question is, how does that all equate in terms of distance and stopping power onto the green? Well, what we can see here is the carry number with the P790 at 156.7 was about 9.2 yards longer than 147.5 that we achieved with the P770. So the P790 is somewhere in the region of about a club longer in the 7-iron part of the test. But where the P770 comes into its own is in that stopping power, and stopping power is the difference between the carry number and the total number, reflecting how much rollout there was on the TrackMan simulator. And what you can see here with the P770 is at 7.8 yards, it stopped on average about 23% quicker than the P790 that stopped after 10.1 yards. So somewhere in the region of 23% more stopping power in this part of the test with the P770. Now the final thing I want to show you in this part of the data analysis is the dispersion circles with both of these clubs. Given the extra forgiveness of the P790, we would expect potentially that the dispersion circle might be a little bit tighter. What you can actually see here is that it really is close in terms of how good the dispersion is front to back, left to right between these two golf clubs. I will just remind you of what I said in the bay, is I do think I had my alignment a little bit out. I think I had the TrackMan set up to one of the fence poles in the distance, and I think I thought it was set up to the one about 10 yards to the right. So imagine that actually the center line is actually 10 yards to the right here, and you'll see how kind of good my strike was on the day. But what we can see is that the dispersion circle probably is a fraction better with the P770. That red circle is maybe just a fraction smaller, but we really are splitting hairs here. Now one thing just to bear in mind is how many shots it took me to get this set of data. With the P770 I had to hit 15 shots to get this set of data, so that means taking out a few shots that just were not going to add anything to the data set because I completely mishit them. With the P790 I only had to hit 12 shots to get this data set, and again that might be a reflection of the forgiveness of the golf club, that a bad hit performed slightly better than it did with the P770. So that brings me nicely into my concluding thoughts. The first thing I want to call out is I think both of these golf clubs are absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed hitting both of them, and I really enjoyed the numbers of the performance I got out of both of them, and they both did exactly what I was expecting them to do, which is testament to TaylorMade. I don't currently game any TaylorMade golf clubs at the moment, but you may have watched my full in-depth review of the TaylorMade P790, and in that review I called out that if I had to go and buy a set of irons off the shelf and I wasn't allowed to be fitted for them, they would definitely be one of the 2 or 3 sets of irons that would be on my list to consider buying, and nothing has changed after doing this review. In terms of which one of these irons would I game, I personally would prefer the P790. It does deliver a slight more ball speed, a slight more bit of peak height for me, and it does deliver a good balance still of spin and distance all round, and they're certainly the things that I need help with, as well as that little bit of extra forgiveness that I felt like I was getting throughout the test. What I would say though is if you're a handicap golfer that's potentially around the same level as me, but actually you definitely have aspirations to get better, maybe you're sort of a 12 handicap golfer and you genuinely think you can get down to 6 and you potentially have a little bit more speed than me to kind of counteract the distance loss that I was seeing in this test, then I definitely would recommend that P770. That extra bit of spin, that extra bit of control, that is all the sort of things that good players or slightly better players than I am will definitely be looking for. Whereas if you are like me, or you're someone maybe from a handicap of 20 that's hoping to come down to kind of the low teens, I definitely think the P790, the irons that you want to look at, they're a really good golf club and something I think you can grow into even for a golfer at sort of at the level of 20 handicap and working their way down at the moment. Love to hear what you think. Do you agree with my concluding thoughts? Have you gamed either of these golf clubs? Has this video helped you? Please do tell me down in the comments, and also let me know if there's any other head-to-heads you'd love to see. It's something I'd like to do a little bit more of on the channel. All that remains for me to say is if you like the video, please do smash that thumbs up. It really does help other like-minded golfers to find my content on YouTube. And we've recently just passed 2,000 subs on the channel, but if you're not one of them, hit that subscribe button down below, follow Weekend Tour Pros, and you'll get notified of all my new videos as they land on YouTube every single week. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.